Hello. Welcome back to Chaos Theory. Firstly, a very happy new year to all of you. This is gonna be my first episode of the year and really excited for it. A little unconventional topic, so yeah. Really hope that all of you had a good start to the year and may you all have an amazing and incredible year ahead. Cheers! So let's start with today's topic. What is magic? Magic is the practice of beliefs, rituals, and actions which are said to control and manipulate either natural or supernatural beings and forces. Typically, magic is categorized as independent from both religion and science due to its various beliefs and practices. Within Western culture, magic has been linked to ideas of the other, foreignness, and primitivism, indicating that it is a powerful marker for cultural differences, and likewise a non modern phenomenon. During the late 19th century and early 20th century, Western intellectuals perceived the practice of magic to be a sign of primitive mentality and also commonly attributed it to marginalized group of peoples. In modern occultism and new pagan religions, many self-described magicians and witches regularly practice ritual magic, defining magic as a technique for bringing about change in the physical world through the force of one's will. This definition was popularized by Aleister Crowley, an influential British occultist, and since that time, other religions and magical systems have adopted it. Witchcraft, sorcery, and magic are related to human encounters and attempts to control the supernatural and are frequently described as ways to account for experiences and conditions that might not otherwise be explained. They appear as themes when humans are concerned with misfortune and harm, accusations and blame, risk and responsibility, and therefore are often analyzed as a form of social control and leveling, as well as ways of perceiving reality. Because they are closely related concepts in anthropology, the three terms often appear together in the same studies, yet have distinct meanings and intellectual histories. The enormous anthropological literature in this area is long running and wide in scope, with examples from nearly every part of the world. The foundational concept is magic, with enormous which encompasses beliefs and behaviors in which the relationship between an act and its effect rests on analogy or a mystical connection rather than empirical or scientific validation. Sorry. While at its core magic is an idea or belief, it manifests in acts and rituals, texts and spells, objects such as amulets and talismans. Anthropological theories of magic, including attempts to treat it as either separate form or inseparable form religion, date back to the discipline's mid 19th century origins and reached a zenith in the mid 20th century through fieldwork based ethnographic research, especially connected to the structural functional school of thought. Witchcraft and sorcery are terms that describe how humans engage with magic. Witches and sorcerers appear with remarkable consistency among worldviews that posit the existence of magic. Practices classified as magic includes divination, astrology, incantation, alchemy, sorcery, spirit mediumation, and necromancy. The term magic is also used colloquially in Western popular culture to refer to acts of conjuring and sleight of hand for entertainment. The purpose of magic is to acquire knowledge, power, love, or wealth, to heal or ward off illness or danger, to guarantee productivity or success in an endeavor to cause harm to an enemy, to reveal information, to induce spiritual transformation, to trick or to entertain. The effectiveness of magic is often determined by the condition and performance of magician, who is thought to have access to unseen forces and special knowledge of the appropriate words and action to manipulate those forces. Phenomena associated or confused with magic include forms of mysticism, medicine, paganism, heresy, witchcraft, shamanism, voodoo, and superstition. Magic is sometimes divided into the high magic of intellectual elite, bordering on science, and the low magic of common folk practices. A distinction is also made between black magic, used for nefarious purposes, and white magic, ostensibly used for beneficial purposes. Although these boundaries are often unclear, magical practices have a sense of otherness because of the supernatural power that is believed to channel through the practitioner, who is a marginalized or stigmatic figure in some societies and a central one in others. White magic has traditionally been understood as the use of magic for selfless or helpful purposes, while black magic was used for selfish and harmful or evil purposes. Sorry, just kind of. Concerning the left hand path or the right hand path dichotomy, black magic is the malicious left hand counterpart of the benevolent white magic. There is no consensus as to what constitutes white, grey, or black magic, as Phil Hines says. Like many other aspects of occultism, what is termed to be black magic depends on very much on who is doing the defining. Grey magic, also called the neutral magic, is a magic that is not performed for specifically beneficial reasons, but is also not focused towards completely hostile practices. Historians and anthropologists have distinguished between practitioners who engage in high magic and those who engage in low magic. In this framework, high magic is seen as more complex, involving lengthy and detailed ceremonies, as well as sophisticated, sometimes expensive paraphernalia. Low magic is associated with peasants and folklore, and the simpler rituals such as brief spoken charms. Greenwood writes that since the Renaissance, high magic has been concerned with drawing down forces and energies from heaven and achieving unity with divinity. High magic is usually performed indoors, while witchcraft is often performed outdoors. The term magic cannot be defined in isolation because of its broad parameters, an important role in many societies, and interactions with related phenomena. Magic is a generic label used by outsiders, theoretically objective observers, to describe specific practices in society in which this word or its conceptual equivalent may not even exist. As a result, diverse phenomena are lumped together on the assumption that they operate on the same way. This artificial construct of magic also exists only concerning that it is not primarily religion and science as alternate modes of rationality. Such definitions of magic privilege cultures with a strong scientific orientation and stigmatize those that practice magic instead of religion. Consequently, defining magic and identifying magicians requires an understanding of the cultural context in which these labels are used. Although magic has ambiguous relationship with Western religion and science, it is rooted in the main institutional, social, and intellectual traditions in Western history. Moreover, modern attempts to arrive at the universal definition of magic reflects a Western bias. In particular, 18th and 19th century views on cultural and historical evolution set magic apart from religion and science. In model development by British anthropologist Sir Fraser James, magic is characterized as an early stage in human development, superseded first by religion and then by science. The debate over relationship between magic, science, and religion that dominated much of discussion about magic throughout the 20th century is evident in the fieldwork of anthropologists, the theories of sociologists of religion, and critiques by postmodernists. Consequently, research in comparatively religion's history and anthropology in the second half of 20th century moved away from the evolutionary model toward more constant context-sensitive interpretations, while other studies developed new models of cross-cultural comparisons. Nonetheless, the magic religion science model retains considerably interpretive power, and the dichotomies used to distinguish magic from religion or science are persuasive in popular discourse. So let us see what is the difference between magic and religion. The magic continues to be widely perceived as an archaic worldview, a form of superstition lacking the intrinsic spiritual value of religion or the rational logic of science, as we have seen from the previous discussions. Religion, according to seminal anthropologist Sir Edward Bernard Taylor, involves a direct personal relationship between humans and spiritual forces. In religion's highest form, that relationship is with personal, conscious, omnipotent spiritual being, while on magic, on the other hand, is characterized as external, impersonal, and mechanical, involving technical acts of power. Magic seeks to manipulate spiritual powers, while religious prayer supplicates spiritual forces, a distinction explored by Bronislaw Malinskowski in his works on the Trobriand Islanders. Moreover, according to Emile Durkheim, religion is communal because its adherents bound together by a shared belief, such as a church. Magic, on the other hand, involves no permanent ties between believers and only temporary ties between individuals and magicians who perform services for them. The fieldwork of A. R. Ratcliffe Brown among the Andaman Islanders, however, has made clear that magic too may have a communal dimension. And on the other hand, let's see what magic and science are related through. Although magic is similar in some aspects of science and technology, it approaches efficacy, which is the ability to produce the desired material outcome, differently. Magic, like religion, is concerned with invisible, non-empirical forces, yet like science it also makes claims to efficacy unlike science, which measures outcomes through empirical and experimental means. Magic invokes a symbolic cause-effect relationship. Moreover, like religion and unlike science, magic has expressive function in addition to its instrumental function. Magical rain-making strategies, for example, may or may not be efficacious, but they serve the expressive purpose of reinforcing the social importance of rain and farming to a community. What are the subcategories of magic? The view of magic as pre-religious or non-scientific has contributed both to subtle distinctions between magic and other practices and the recognition of subcategories of magic. Notably, anthropologists distinguish magic from witchcraft, defining the former as a manipulation of external power by a mechanical or a behavioral means to affect others, and the latter as an inherent personal quality that allows the witch to achieve the same ends. However, the line between the two is not always clear, and in some parts of the world, an individual may operate in both ways. Similarly, the distinction between black magic and white magic is obscure since both practices often use the same means and are performed by the same person. Scholars also distinguish between magic and divination, whose purpose is not to influence events but to predict or understand them. Nevertheless, the mystical power of diviners may be thought to be the same as the behind of magic. Ultimately, despite these distinctions and the variety of unique roles that practitioners play in their own societies, most end up classified under the universal term magician. Often, even religious figures such as priests, shamans, and prophets are identified as magicians because many of their activities act as magical by the modern scholars. Conceptual history of magic. The claim that magic is found in all human societies rests on definition that is rooted in the Western cultural assumptions, and both these assumptions and the use of term magic have changed over the time and place. Consequently, to understand beliefs and practices in a society that appear similar to European magic, it is necessary to apply the context-sensitive and comparative methods that become increasingly important in the study of anthropology and history and religion. History of magic in Western worldviews. The Western conception of magic is rooted in the ancient Judeo-Christian and Greco-Roman heritage. The tradition took further shape in the Northern Europe during the medieval and early modern period before spreading to other parts of the globe through European exploration and colonialism after 1500s. The view of Western civilization as a story of progress includes the magic religion science paradigm that traces the rise and decline of magic, and then religion along with the final triumph of science, a model now challenged by scholars. Moreover, the very origins of word magic raise questions about ways in which one person's religion is another person's magic and vice versa. Let's go through different areas of the world history to understand what magic, science, and religion meant to them. Firstly, we start from Mesopotamia. Magic was invoked in many kinds of rituals and medicinal recipes, And to counteract evil omens, defensive or illegitimate magic in Mesopotamia were incantations and ritual practices intended to alter specific realities. The ancient Mesopotamians believed that magic was the only viable defense against demons, ghosts, and evil sorcerers. To defend themselves against the spirits of those they had wronged, they would leave offerings known as kispu in the person's tomb in hope of appeasing them. If that failed, they also sometimes took a figurine of the deceased and buried it in the ground, demanding for the gods to eradicate the spirit or forces to leave the person alone. The ancient Mesopotamians also used magic, intending to protect themselves from evil sorcerers who might place curses on them. Black magic as a category didn't exist in ancient Mesopotamia, and a person legitimately used magic to defend themselves against illegitimate magic would use the same techniques. The only major difference was the fact that the curses were enacted in secret, where a defense against sorcery was conducted in the open, in front of the audience if possible. One ritual to punish a sorcerer was known as maklu, or the burning. The person viewed as being afflicted by witchcraft would create a effigy of the sorcerer and put it on the trial at night. Then, once the nature of the sorcerer's crime had been determined, the person would burn the effigy and thereby take the sorcerer's power over them. The Sumerian god Enki, who was later syncretized with the East Semitic god A, was closely associated with magic and incantations. He was a patron god of Baru and the Aslipu and was widely regarded as the ultimate source of all arcane knowledge. The ancient Mesopotamians also believed in omens, which could come when solicited or unsolicited. Regardless of how they came, omens were always taken with the utmost seriousness. Now let's move on to Egypt. Magic, personified as the god Heka, was an integral part of ancient Egyptian religion and culture, which is known to us through a substantial corpus of texts which are produced by Egyptian traditions. While the category magic has been contentious for modern Egyptology, there is a clear support for its applicability from ancient terminology. The Coptic term Hik is a descendant of Pharaonic term Heka, which, unlike its Coptic counterpart, had no connotations of impiety or illegality, and it's attest from the Old Kingdom through to the Roman era. Heka was considered morally neutral and was applied to the practices and beliefs of both foreigners and Egyptians alike. The instruction for Mary Karef informs us that Heka was beneficence gifted by the creator of humanity to the weapons to ward off the blow of events. Magic was practiced by the both literate priestly hierarchically and illiterate farmers and the herdsmen, and the principle of Heka underlay all ritual activity both in terms of temples and in private settings. The main principle of Heka is centered on the power of words to bring things into being. Now let's move on to ancient Mediterranean world. The root word for magic, Greek magia and Latin magia, derives from the Greek term magoi, which refers to the Median tribe in Persia and their religion, Zoroastrianism. The Greco-Roman tradition held that magicians possessed arcane or secret knowledge and the ability to channel power or through any of the polytheist deities, spirits or ancestors of the ancient pantheons. Indeed, many of the traditional associates with magic in the classical world derive from the fascination with ancient Middle Eastern beliefs and are concerned with the need for counter magic against sorcery. Spells uttered by sorcerers and addressed to gods, to fire, to salt, and grain are recorded from Mesopotamia and Egypt. These texts are also reveal the practice of necromancy, invoking spirits of the dead, who were regarded as the last defense against evil magic. Greco-Egyptian papyruses from the 1st to 4th century CE, for example, include magical recipes involving animals and animal substances, along with instruction from the ritual preparations necessary to ensure the efficacy of the spells. Divination took many forms, from the Etruscan art of haruspinia to the Roman practice of augury and was widely practiced as a means of determining propitious times to engage in specific activities. It often played a role in political decision making. Ancient Roman society was particularly concerned with sorcery and counter sorcery. Contests associated with the development of competitive new urban classes, whose members had to rely on their own efforts in both material and magical terms to defeat their rival and attain success. Ambivalence toward magic carried into the early Christian era of the Roman Empire and its subsequent heirs in Europe and Byzantium. In the Gospel according to Matthew, the Magi who appeared with the birth of the Jesus Christ were both Persian foreigners of Greco-Roman conception and a wise astrologer. As practitioners of the foreign religion, they seem to validate the significance of Jesus' birth. However, magus, the singular form of magi, has a negative connotation in the New Testament in the account of Simon Magus, the magician who attempted to buy the miraculous power of disciplines of Christ. In medieval Europe, Christian legends is his story into the dramatic contest between the true religion with its miracle divinities and the false demonic magic with its illusion. Nonetheless, belief in the reality of the occult power and the new need for Christian counter ritual persisted. For example, in the Byzantine belief in the evil eye, caused by the envious which was thought to be demonically inspired, and from which Christians needed protection through the divine remedies. Moving on to the medieval Europe, where it all got popularized. During the period of Europe's conversion to Christianity, magic was strongly identified with paganism. The label Christian missionaries used to demonize the religious beliefs of Celts, Germanic, and Scandinavian people. Church leaders simultaneously appropriated and Christianized native practices and belief. For example, medicinal remedies found in monastic manuscripts combine Christian formulas and rites with Germanic folk rituals to empower natural ingredients to cure ailments caused by poisons, elf attack, demonic repossessions, or other invisible forces. Another Christianized practice, bibliomancy, was codified in the 11th century divinatory Psalter of Orthodox Slavs. Although co opted and condemned by Christian readers of the period, magic survived in a complex relationship with the dominant religion. Similarly, acculturation processes occurred in later conversions in Latin America and Africa, where indigenous beliefs in spiritual forces and magical practices coexisted, sometimes uneasily with Christian theology. In High Medieval Europe, the battle between religion and magic occurred as a struggle against heresy, the church's label for prevented Christian belief. Magicians, like heretics, were believed to be distorted or abuse Christians' rights to do the devil's work. By the 15th century, belief in the reality of human pacts with the devil and the magical powers acquired through them contributed to the persecution of those who accused of actually harming others with their magic. Also, in the High Middle Ages, the demonization of Muslims and Jews contributed to the suspicions of the other marginal groups were routinely accused of the ritual baby killing. In lurid accounts of the blood libel, Jews were charged with stealing Christian children for sacrifice. Similar accusations were made against witches by Christians and against Christians by the ancient Romans. After reading through all the texts that have been published on this material, I have come to the realization that magic is often related to somewhat like science and religion, but often ignored to be the part of it as well. I don't know like what uh, the future beholds in magic, but I have come to the conclusion that magic is somewhat a correlation between science and religion. It's like basically a gray area of both, an intersection of both, but not either as well, if you know what I mean to say. But yeah, like it was a good topic researching about different religions, different i- civilizations take on what magic was supposed to be for them, and how modernists perceived magic in different societies and as a present at present what they perceive of magic to be. But yeah, I think it was a good. I had a fun time researching about this topic, and I hope you also had a fun time listening to what I had to say. A huge apologies to if I mispronounce any of the words, cause I don't really know a lot of words like ancient civilization used. So them, yeah. So I want to apologize if I offend anyone by mispronouncing what I couldn't pronounce. So yeah, that's it for me today. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. See you soon next time.